Welcome back to Duckman Cycles VW Garage. I'm your host, the Duckman. We're back today with my 1956 Beetle, also known as Eleanore, who unfortunately spent a little time under 6 feet of seawater during Hurricane Ivan about 14 years ago. I rescued the car several years ago, but it sat outside in the rain and unfortunately broke in the middle before I got it. So I had to cut the car literally 2 pieces, and I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of pieces that were much bigger than, let's say, a pizza pan. The biggest pizza pan you could imagine, yeah, it was about the biggest piece on this car. So I cut the thing all to bits, put it all back together the best I could to my specifications, making the car the way I wanted it, which brings me to this video, and one of the reasons why I'm shooting this video. Now, first off, you probably noticed it's not raining. I tried to shoot an intro earlier. I didn't know if I was going to get around to actually record this video, but it just started pouring rain, and I mean, hey, welcome back to Duckman Cycles at VW Garage. It rained for probably about half the day before it finally started to dry up, and it's actually a little Florida cold out right now. It's like 68 degrees, and yeah, I know it's colder where you're at, but 68 degrees this time of year is actually, well, kind of cold. I don't feel cold, of course, because I'm from New Jersey, but nonetheless, people here are putting on parkas and stuff. So I'll be making some videos when I drive around town. I see somebody wearing a heavy winter coat, and it's still about 70 degrees. Yeah, it never made any sense to me. But no, I'm outside in shorts because guess why? Yeah, I'm from up north. So actually, this is just beautiful, beautiful weather to me. When you work outside, you hardly sweat. But today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a little bit of a science experiment. We're actually going to take some phosphoric acid and show that it not only removes oxidation from rust, but it also removes oxidation from old paint. And some people in the last video talked about it and said, that actually, did pretty good. It may look pretty nice. Is it safe to use? And the answer is actually, from what I've read, yeah, you could put phosphoric acid on your paint. I would imagine you probably wouldn't want to leave it there forever. It might actually eat it, or if your paint's compromised or chipped, it could get under it and cause it to pop or flake off. But if your paint is not compromised and just on the surface it looks a little chalky, yes, actually you could use phosphoric acid to remove that and rejuvenate the surface color of the paint. So we're going to do a little video on that, taking one of Eleanor's old doors, and we're going to put a little bit of phosphoric acid on one side, a little bit of water on the other side, and leave a control strip that's as it is. And we're going to let it soak for a couple hours, come back to it, and see just what it looks like. And, of course, if it looks like it did any damage to the paint, which I don't think it will, but we're letting it soak for a lot longer than I probably would ordinarily, and I'm doing that on purpose because I want to see if it actually does any damage. And I don't think it will, but we're going to see. We're going to see. So anyways, thanks for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Pluck that little dingle belly down there next to the subscribe button. That way you get updates every time I upload a new video. Please don't forget to check out Duckman Cycles VW Garage Facebook page. There's always a discussion on one of my projects, whether it be Eleanore or the Doodle Bastard or something else that somebody else has shared. If you got a project and you want to share it, even if it's just pictures, or you want to ask a question about yours, don't feel embarrassed. We all had a first time. We all started out somewhere. And if I can answer your question, or one of the other guys can, and we're getting close to 500-something subscribers on there now, and we have something like 500 people joined in the group page now, and all you guys are my friends that are over there. You're not just subscribers, you're not just members, you're actually my friends. You guys contribute a lot to this project and the things that I do, as much as you help each other. I mean, you guys are wonderful, really are. So I'm glad I can give something back, and I think that's an interesting place to do it. So please join us over in the Facebook group page. I really appreciate it. And as always, if you'd like to email me with a personal question or something, duckmancycles@duckshit.net. Once again, duckmancycles@duckshit.net. Thanks for watching. We'll be back in a few. Well, we're back. For the first science experiment that I was talking about that I like to do is I like to take some phosphoric acid and try to eat the oxidation out of some paint, some old oxidized paint that was on Eleanore. We're going to use her original passenger door, which still has the jungle green paint on it, and we're going to compare what it looks like with some phosphoric acid on one side and some just water on the other, and leave a control section in the middle that's nice and clean, or I shouldn't say clean, just leave it unaltered. Whatever it looks like or whatever it started out as, we're going to leave it alone. And once these chemicals dry, we're going to compare and see the difference and how much the acid will eat the oxidation out of the paint. Now, I used to have a 1940, oh man, I think I almost forgot, 46 Chevy? Yeah, I think it was a 46 Chevy. I had that almost 5 years ago now. I had it for not very long, a couple days. And I also had a beard then, apparently, a really big one. But the car was fun. I only had it for a little while, but I ended up trying to hit some of the rust with phosphoric acid, and some of the places where I got some of the phosphoric acid on the black paint, it turned out the chalkiness that was in the paint, or the oxidation that was on the paint, actually turned out it was really pretty blue underneath. It was a really dark metallic blue, but because it chalked over on the surface, it just looked flat black. And I actually wanted to hit the entire car with phosphoric acid before I was done, just to clean it up a little bit, but I didn't have the car long enough to do that. I ended up selling it pretty quickly. It wasn't around here very long at all. And jumped right back into the Volkswagen world, of course. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started with that experiment. Welcome to Project Farm, where we do all kinds of experiments and various different products. Not one of them is sponsored by anybody. I buy them all myself, and I spend my own money. Just making a joke. I actually very much like Project Farm, but I just had to throw in a little impression there. He's actually really cool. I don't know his name. I never talked to him, but I do watch his videos. I'm a big fan, and I click thumbs up on every single one of them, and I hope you guys do the same thing for me. And if you are bored, head over to Project Farm and look at some of his videos. He compares all kinds of different products and various different things, and he actually will demonstrate which one is the best, or sometimes which one is the best for a certain situation. Sometimes one product is better than the other, but in different ways to use it. So certainly check him out. But what we've got here is we have Eleanor's old door. And I demonstrated in the last video, getting some phosphoric acid on paint, that it takes the oxidation out of the paint and rejuvenates it. It makes it look new. And it does it without eating the paint. So what I'm going to demonstrate, using just some plain water right here, and some phosphoric acid. I don't have a whole lot because we're not going to need a whole lot. And Eleanor's old passenger's door. We're going to try to clean up this paint with some phosphoric acid, some water, and I'm going to leave a control point here in the middle, just so that way when this all dries, we can have a look and see just how much of a difference the water from cleaning the door versus the phosphoric acid from eating the oxidation out of the paint versus, well, I'm going to call it stock, just stock aged paint. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to experimenting here. And this is going to be real quick, real simple. Here's the water. There we go. Just like that. I should probably have the camera on a tripod. I actually attached a tripod mount to it, but I don't have it on there now. Alright, a little bit of phosphoric acid. Wow, I can actually feel a difference when I put it on. It's actually a little more slippery. Okay, and we will let those sit and dry, and then we're going to compare the differences and see just how much of a difference that phosphoric acid makes in eating the oxidation out of that paint. So is primer going to be the end-all of all rust on this car? No, unfortunately not, because I don't know when I'm going to paint it. I really don't. I mean, I'd like to have paint on it before the next car show, which is a year away, but, you know, I don't know that that's going to happen in that time frame. So if I were to put primer on it now, the problem with most primers is they are absorbent. You know, they pull moisture into themselves. So for any metal that's sitting underneath it, it's going to be more likely to rust. Now you say, okay, well, you could just coat it with an epoxy primer. But the trouble is, I'm still cutting and welding on this car. So, you know, all those little sparks are going to get in the primer, and it's going to mess it up, and it's going to have to be sanded and reprimed again. And that didn't make any sense to me. And then people say, well, you know, you could just get some weld-through primer and you can use that. Okay, so I use weld-through primer. It's not the kind of primer that contains the etching phosphoric acid that's going to seal the car up. So I would use that, I would weld, I'd still make burn marks all in it, I'd have to do it over again, and it still wouldn't provide me the protection of any particular etching primer. And it's also not any type of epoxy primer that's going to seal the car up at the same time, and even if I did use that, once again, it's going to burn holes in it. So what I'm doing with this phosphoric acid is actually the correct thing to do, because I just don't know how quickly I'm going to get around to some of these things. And that's the next question I get asked. You know, when is this car going to be done? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, if I win Powerball this week, the car could be done next week. The first thing I would do is I would take the car and I would ship it over to the other coast, and I would have Earl finish up the bodywork on it. And if you don't know Earl, by the way, Earl is, I'm going to post the link in the video description down here as to how to get over to his YouTube channel. He doesn't have that many subscribers yet, but he does some primo work. He restored the Christine movie car. He also did one of the Herbies. So I would send this car off to Earl, and I know he would make that paint perfect. And he and I are going to have a discussion about that in the future and see what the two of us can do together as far as getting this car painted, because paint is not my strong point. I mean, I can sand, I can polish, I can do all that, I can do the prep work, but when it comes to the actual laying of the paint and doing it right, that's really not my department. So I will, for certain, contract that one out. And Earl is my first candidate that I would choose. One of the other questions that we get asked very commonly, and more recently, is am I going to put running boards on here? And yeah, absolutely I'm going to put running boards on here. But because of these super wide fenders, stock running boards look kind of stupid. Because a stock running board would come to about here, a skinny little thing, and then they gradually widen out, and it would come to about here. I want to run the running boards all the way to the edge of that fender. So my shoe is a little over a foot long, so I would run that running board, you know, all the way out to the, the edge of that fender, and then all the way back to here. They won't be stock. I may use a set of stock ones for a base, which I will go ahead and cut some pieces out of and extend, and, you know, whatever I need to do to that to make it work. Or I might just fab something from the get-go, you know, just make the whole damn thing. I think I'm capable of it by now after, you know, forming and cutting all this metal in this car. But yeah, running boards are certainly going to be that. What color am I going to paint it? I'm back on the paint subject again. Eleanore originally did have a kind of a diamond green color, which is kind of this it looks a little bit rusty colored in this camera lens, but it's actually a very gold with like a green pearlescent in it. Very pretty, very, very nice color. I don't know that I want to paint that again, this color. One of the other colors that was suggested was to make her jungle green, which is this green over here. And this jungle green is also a really pretty color, and it's also period. Both of these colors were very common in the mid-50s on Volkswagen Beetles. But I don't know that I want that either. But overwhelmingly, like I said, people have really, really wanted green. And not to give in to everybody else, because of course this is my car and I'm going to do it my way, but I kind of agree. I'm really starting to like that green. Now, I do have some of that Blurple paint here in the garage, and if you're a first-time viewer, you're not familiar with the Blurple that I talked about before, but it was actually a Ford color. It was used very commonly on Ford Rangers back in the mid-90s, right around 1996, 97, I guess it was. And I have a gallon of it in the garage, and I don't know if it's still any good. I mean, it hasn't gotten any activator in it. It's just been sitting in a sealed can, never been opened, not even once. There's a possibility it could still be good. I thought about spraying it on this car just to see. But, once again, I'm not a good sprayer, and if it fails or it doesn't look good, or if it's not what I want, then you got to go through all the work of prepping the car all over again and painting the whole car. And I want to do it one time and be done with it for the next, 20 or 30 years. 20 or 30 years puts me way off into the future, from my age where I'm at now. I'll be as old as my dad, so yeah. But Eleanore is a really, really beautiful car here. Really, really beautiful car, and I'm quite happy with the way she's turned out. But those are some of the more recent questions, and of course, when am I going to get the car done? I really don't know. When am I going to have it running and driving is probably a better question. Running? Maybe next week. I've actually got an engine that I'm going to throw in this car, and it should run. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't. The engine that's in here, which had the bolt that fell down inside of it, which I didn't do, by the way. Some people say, well, why did you do something so stupid? No, I found the bolt inside that engine. That was not me. I popped off the generator stand, realized things weren't assembled correctly, saw a bolt down inside of it, went to get a magnet, and it fell in the rest of the way, and I couldn't get it out. I just couldn't fish it out. Maybe I can get a borescope in there. Maybe I can still find it if I dig around a little more. But last week I was in such a crunch for time that, well, I just couldn't finish it. So I had to just leave the motor alone as it sits in the car for display purposes only. And that's this engine that you see in here. And some people say, well, why are you using such crappy aluminum tins? Well, if you're saying that, you're not actually watching my videos, because what I said is that I'm going to put these tins on here for show only. Just for show. I wanted something that looked kind of cool, something that looked a little different, and they were real easy to polish up and make it look clean without having to paint something. And I think the brushed aluminum really looked good. And I got a 7 out of 10 on my engine, even though it's missing a ton of parts on it. I actually got a 7 out of 10 at the car show, so I think I did the right thing. If anybody feels otherwise, then you're not smart for not actually watching and listening to what I'm saying. And some people have said, why do you feel the engine has to be stock? The engine doesn't have to be stock. Once again, you're not watching my videos. I've actually had a video about nothing but engines, about the engines and plans for engines and what I want to do with this car. It's actually my most disliked video of the year, and I wanted to touch on that subject one more time. The most disliked video was me talking about the future on engine. First engine I wanted to put into this car is stock, and only because I have a stock engine ready to go. People, once again, don't understand that. They don't listen to it. I don't know why. I keep getting the same questions. It's going to be a stock engine. I have the parts to build a bigger engine, and I forgot what the specifications is, but we're talking like a 2100cc something. And it should be able to build an engine that will be an upgrade to this. But on the short term, if I want to get this car running and driving, I have a stock engine to bolt into it right immediately. I mean, just almost immediately. I put that in here, get it running, and that's one more step closer to the ultimate goal, which is to get it on the street. Then I can build the other engine, make another video series of building engines. I know you guys want to see that. And then finally a process of me pulling out the stock engine and putting in the upgraded engine. And then down the road, I also suggested that I wanted to do a Subaru upgrade. You know, and I mean, that's way down the road. You know, way down the road. I'd love to drive this car cross-country. There's no reason why a Volkswagen engine couldn't. It's just using a Subaru engine, I think you get a lot more horsepower. You're going to get better gas mileage. The thing is just quieter. It's got a lot of advantages to using it. The downside is, of course, it's water-cooled. You're going to have to figure out where you're going to put a radiator. You know, it is more expensive to fix, but you're less likely to have to fix it. In the event something did go wrong, I can go to any Subaru dealership around the country, pull in a 1956 Beetle. They're all going to look at me funny, especially when I open up the deck lid and they see a Subaru engine in there, but that's another story for another time. I don't think I'm going to do a Subaru engine anytime soon, and even if I did do it, it's so far off in the future that, you know, it's not on the table for happening anytime soon. This car is going to get paint on it. It's going to get running and driving long before that even was an idea that I want to actually implement. There's steps that I have to go through. A stock engine first, upgraded Volkswagen engine because I have the stuff to do it, and then maybe Subaru down the road. I don't know. It may never happen. You guys click, you know, thumbs down on that video more than any other video. Now, probably the same thing would have happened if I went ahead and made a video about the 56 Beetle. And you notice it was a quiet time of about a year while I was putting this car back together. And I did that on purpose because I knew that if I got on YouTube and I showed the oval and I had to cut to pieces and I said, I'm going to build a chop top, you guys would have done this also. No, you got to restore that car. You got to put it back to its original specifications. No, that's exactly why I waited, because I didn't want anybody to tell me that I was doing wrong. I didn't want anybody to tell me that you should do it this way, and that's something I hate. You should. Comments that begin with you should or contain the words that you should somewhere in there. You know, that's a shitty comment. Thumbs down to that. I like your suggestions most of the time, but telling me what I should do, no. You want a car, you want it a certain way, you build the car your way. This is my car, I'm going to do it my way. This is not a car for the people, this is a car for me. This is the car I'm building to my specifications. This is the car I'm building for my comfort, for my taste. If other people like it, that's great. If other people don't like it, it's too bad, it's not yours. If you want me to build one for you, show me some money. You show me money, I'll build one for you, no problem. Maybe I'll even sell this one to you. Everything's for sale for a price. This one won't be cheap, though. Okay, another thing that I got asked for, you know, why didn't you pull the car up, you know, into the garage with a winch? You could just screw it into your floor, you know, and just pull the thing up. Well, guess what? I've got a winch, but the problem is, where do you attach it in the rear end of a Volkswagen? This is all sheet metal. There's no bumper brackets, and even if there were, once again, it's all screwed into sheet metal. You know, if I wanted to actually attach it to something, the most solid thing is going to be probably, you can see it right there, a diagonal bar. That's one of the 6-point harness bars, but if I go under that, it's actually going to have to go under the engine. So as I pull the strap, it's going to force the engine up in the air, and it just might tear the transmission mounts out of it, because that's the kind of force that they were not designed for. We'll just tie it around the axle. Well, the car is sitting low, that if I tied it around the axle, now I'd be pulling up on the body. So I'd be, you know, misshaping my body. Again, it's just, no, that doesn't work. Now, if I had the front end of the car pointing up, and I wanted to put the front end in the garage, it would be as easy as just tying the strap around the axle beam, and making sure that the suspension was pushed up, you know, as much air as possible, and the strap will pull underneath the car just like it should. I could even put the tow bar on it if I really wanted to go nuts and attach the strap to the tow bar and pull it up, but I put the car in the garage in reverse on purpose because it's a lot easier to turn that steering wheel while I'm pushing the car in reverse, you know, so that way I can get it centered in the garage. And there's other reasons too, but it just fits better in the garage, and that's one of the reasons why I push it in backwards the way that I do. Okay, so, you know, I hope that answers some of the questions, and it has to get a couple of things off my chest, because that has just been just really obnoxious and annoying. You know, people telling me what I have to do with my car. Well, no, it's my car and I'll do it my way, so, you know, too bad. I do like suggestions, though, and if you have one to me that's really constructive, you know, and you have something that you would like to share, and you think that I could do something better, rather than telling me you should, maybe you should give it as a suggestion, you know. It might be better if, you know, that would probably be better words, but telling me you should, the first thing I do when I look at that comment is I say, yeah, right. You should do it, not me. My car, my way. Anyway, getting a couple different angles walking around this car, I gotta admit, this thing is gorgeous. This thing is just gorgeous. I am so happy with this car. So happy. Another question commonly asked, and I have videos on all this stuff, it's all in my previous videos, but what kind of seats are these? And these are seats right out of my Nissan 350Z. Now, I didn't take the Z apart to get these seats in here. I actually ended up picking up a set of seats really cheap a couple years ago, and the reason why I bought them is they had much better covers on them, and I got them for so cheap, you know, that I was going to take these seats apart and put them in the Z because the Z seats were starting to wear out. Well, I didn't get around to replacing the seats yet, and I got tired of tripping over them, and I realized, hey, wait a minute, these seats are in otherwise good shape, except for the fact that the previous owner butchered the seat tracks on them. I mean, he completely butchered them. He got one of them, he was mounting in an RX-7, and I think he chickened out, because, I mean, he just made such a sloppy mess out of the tracks. I had to just grind the piss out of his old welds, and cut off all the extra stuff that was still on the stock seats. It just was messed up. But they still ride on stock sliders. I ended up just making some special mounts to adapt them to the Volkswagen. And that actually turned out really nicely and worked out really well. But yes, these are 350Z seats that you see in here, and I find them incredibly comfortable, and they're a decent shape to my body, although my ass is kind of wide and my shoulders are kind of wide. It'd be nice if the bucket was actually wider, but it's not, and to be honest, I haven't seen ones that are any bigger. And another thing that people commonly ask is that they always notice about, not so much the car, but me, are you really 6'3"? And when I met some of my fans at the recent car show here, and it happened more than once, people look at me and they're looking way up like this. You know, you really are 6'3". Like, well, yeah, I wasn't lying. And as a result of being 6'3", you know, being this drip rail only comes up to my belly button. You know, so I am a lot taller than this car, and people didn't realize just how low the car is, or for that matter, how tall I am, until they actually got to see me standing next to it. But we'll give you a demonstration here. If you didn't watch that last video, I mean, I'm not lying to you. I don't know why I would lie about that. My fingertips are 8'2". I'm very fingertip when I reach straight up in the air. So, for whatever that matters. But yes, I can put my fingers on the ceiling. Most houses are about 8 feet minus, you know, the drywall. So I can actually put fingertips right up onto the ceiling. So changing out light fixtures and stuff sometimes is possible by me just standing on the ground. Well, I think that more or less covers the questions. I gotta say the phosphoric acid did a good job of cleaning up all the rust on this car. You should have a look up underneath the hood here. Okay, yeah, it did a pretty good job. You see the bubbles that I made there. All that stuff wipes off real easy with just a damp rag. Not a wet rag, just a damp rag. You get it just a little bit wet, and you rub it down, and all that stuff comes right off. You don't want to try to paint over that, because not only is it lumpy, but it doesn't stick very good. So yeah, you have to remove as much of it as you can. But I must say that it did a pretty good job of taking the rust off. And of course, it's resealed now. All that is sealed up. Need not worry about it rusting anytime soon, especially from just the humid air anyway. But seeing as how the rest of the car hasn't really gotten a whole lot of phosphoric acid on it in about a year, you know, there's a lot of things that could have gotten to it. In fact, it's still even wet in a couple places. It's just been so damn damp. It's just been raining. It's just been raining. Another thing that I have on the agenda for this week is wheel spacing in the front. You see that pretty good wheel spacing that I have in the back there. And I want to do something similar in the front. The wheels are just tucked way too far. And some people like that tucked look. I don't. No, I like the wheel to look like it's filling up the fender. It just looks way too sucked in where it's at. Now, when I put these wheels on here, they are attached to the Porsche hubs. And the Porsche hubs are, of course, attached to the Volkswagen spindle by way of Porsche bearings that are sitting in special sleeves that were made by A-Bomb79. Thank you, Adam. If you haven't already, you need to subscribe to his channel. You can actually see the machining process that he did on that. And I think he's got one more video release, I think it's this Saturday, discussing the machine work that he did on the front end here and the parts that made that fit. But because the thing is sitting in Porsche hubs, it actually did push the wheel out. And the fact that it has drop spindles, again, it also pushed the wheel out a little bit. But these wheels that are 928 wheels actually have a really heavy offset on them, which causes the wheel to get sucked back in. So I have to make up that difference a little bit. And according to my calculations and numbers that I figured out, the drop spindles push it out about 10 centimeters. The Porsche hubs and the way that it's sitting in the Porsche bearings with the Porsche sleeves that Adam made, I pushed it out approximately another half an inch. So you figure 10 centimeters plus half an inch, it's almost a whole inch. It's like 22 millimeters or something like that, as opposed to 25.4. So I'm a few millimeters short of an inch, but we're going to call it an inch. But I figure I need to gain about another inch or so out of there, maybe even another inch and a quarter. But I have some 1-inch wheel spacers and some longer lug studs coming. In fact, they're the same exact ones that I put on the rear, and I think what that's going to do is fill up that fender and make it look a little better. Now, of course, I don't want the wheel to rub on the inside of the fender, but I'm not actually going to drive it when it's that low anyway. Some people like that wheel tuck look, but again, I said that's not for me. And anytime you narrow the front end of your car, or anytime you narrow the track, you're actually affecting the handling. And I want this car to handle, and it's one of the reasons why I pushed the wheels out. Everything on this car is just, goes with the whole concept of wider. Wider is better. And it's not just for aesthetics, it's also going to, well, like I said, perform a little bit better because it should be a little more grippy in the turns. Wider is always better. Okay, let's go ahead and check on our little project and see what we got. Okay, here's our little science project. Here's where I put the phosphoric acid, here's where we did nothing, and over here is where I wiped it down with some water. And looking at the difference in the luster here, I can see it's a little bit cleaner over here because the water did take some of the dirt off. But as far as the color of the paint is concerned, unchanged. But the phosphoric acid, and this is dry, has done a lovely job, and my hand has something on it, has done a lovely job of actually bringing up the shine. And actually, you notice the color of the paint changed because it took off the oxidation. So I would say that, yeah, you could use phosphoric acid to clean up your paint. I wouldn't use a whole ton of it, but if you're looking to restore some of the old luster that your paint used to have and bring the color back, rather than buffing through all that mess, maybe you just want to take a little bit of phosphoric acid, maybe dilute it with a little bit of water, and rub the car down. You just let it soak, and you might want to do it a couple times. Be careful you don't get it on any of your rubber seals and stuff. It could discolor, and if you have any stainless steel on the car, it's going to turn it black. Yeah, keep your phosphoric acid away from stainless steel. But yeah, I would say that phosphoric acid is certainly good for cleaning up paint. It, as I said, it brought that shine up in there, and I think with very, very minimal buffing, I could actually bring that to a very, very beautiful shine. But yeah, this is Eleanor's old door, and that's the jungle green that she used to be. Yep, no doubt about it. Phosphoric acid did indeed take the oxidation out of the paint. Well, that's it for now, so thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Pluck that little dingle belly down there next to the subscribe button. That way you get updates every time I upload a new video. Don't forget to check out Duckman Cycles VW Garage on the Facebook. There'll be discussion on what we're talking about here, as well as anybody else's project that they may have shared. If you'd like to email me, once again, duckmancycles@duckshit.net. Send me that email, ask me something personal if you're interested. We'll have a conversation. See you next time. Really appreciate it.